number 2 of 2017. A lot of numbers for you. Sin Academy versus Outlaws. Now, Sin Academy still have a really, really nice roster here. Outlaws debuting Young Cat back on the roster, I do believe there. But as we jump into pick and bans, you can see Squidgy's there, Eva, also known as Yuzuki, Chaz Pralis, and Tekka. This is a really nice lineup, and that's why they deserve our top 4 recommendation.
And when you're talking about OPL talent, the one person who we sort of unfortunately glossed over and didn't get too much time to talk about was Eva. Yuzuki, he got to play on the Chiefs. You know, they were on the emergency squad that they had when the original one was going
Emergency squad did good.
Yeah, they did extremely well. Everybody thought that they were going to go 0-2 and they were sort of just struggling behind, but they actually went 1-1 and they managed to carry the team out. He's got experience. He's won against OPL teams, so that's really going to help in terms of confidence in this game.
And of course, moving into this first pick and ban phase, we are on patch 7.12, Preacher, which means we have a lot of changes. Zach gets nerfed a little bit, but still ban-worthy champion, along with that Galio.
Yeah, it's extremely ban-worthy. I mean, he's still one of the strongest junglers inside the entire game. You simply don't want to give it over. I mean, nothing's really too strange as far as looking at these picks and bans go so far in the game, and it's extremely standard. You don't want the Elise. Elise is extremely strong. Galio, Zach, all off the board.
And I'm actually just looking at the Outlaws roster now as well. So Vibes, I think, is in the jungle, unless there's been a mix-up. Scam Diggity, normally a jungler. Didn't expect him to come back in.
No.
We were actually told that these guys were playing open ladder this split, but Rain, a really good AD carry in the mid lane. Scam Diggity top. See how they perform in this position, but Sin Academy see that Lucian is a first pick worthy.
Yeah, they think that it's really strong. I think this is one of the comfort picks that comes out because especially in the OCS, if you can get an ADC who can pop off a lot in the early game and just make sure that they can transition to mid game, make sure they can get into late game really easily, then they can perform a lot for the team. Now, on the other side though, one of the things that you actually forgot to mention is K-pop is the support for Outlaws. Already played a few weeks on the Team Regicide. Yeah, inside the OPL, so now he's dropping down. Bring some experience along.
I mean, there is a lot of experience on both of these rosters. Chaz recently played on the Outlaws lineup. He then went back and forth, starting on the Alpha Sydney, now onto Outlaws, now back to Sin Academy. The guy has just proven his worth. Let's come back to reality, however, though, because we know that Chaz will play the Orianna if it is available. But it doesn't look like there's mid lane priority here. Looks like instead the Lee Sin pick, the Lulu pick as well. Bit of a hover of Nunu, which has had competitive play. And all in all, I think that junglers here are must-have.
Yeah, they're definitely important. And when you have the likes of Elise and also Zach banned off, everything goes towards the A tier from the S tier.
Yeah.
Lee Sin on the other side has to be a comfort pickup for Vibes because we've heard time and time again that this guy really does love his Lee Sin, especially in solo queue. He's played a lot of it. So over on the other side, of course, responded with Kha'Zix. That's just the next best one.
Of course, Kha'Zix locked in there for the board on Sin Academy. Looking at the option of picking up the support before maybe the Karma gets banned away. We know that that is going to be locked in as well forever. Down in the bottom lane is a flex, however, because we know Chaz can be quite versatile in this mid lane role.
Yeah, but now what you really need to watch out for is Outlaws. They need to pick their ADC right now, or else everything just gets banned out from under them in the second round of bans. So the Ashe is still available, an extremely great champion. Unfortunately, Caitlyn is banned away, one of the best counters towards Solution, but you can still go with that. You can go with something like a Varus as well. They perform extremely well in lane. Wow.
Hello, the Jinx. So Lucian was first pick worthy, and now apparently Jinx is pick worthy as well while we get into this second ban phase. Outlaws really trusting Young Cat with the hyper carry.
Color me surprised. I'm actually really interested in seeing how this goes. I mean, you got the extra attack speed that comes out from Lulu's Whimsy, so all in all, she just buffs the Jinx even more when you get to the late game capacity. Now, what it really indicates is that they want to play around the Jinx. They should get an assassin in the mid lane and somebody who can support in the top lane. Like, for instance, a Shen, somebody who can just keep him safe.
Yeah, I mean, the Shen does look like a really good pick, and it would surmise this team composition. The Lee Sin jungle, of course, Scam Diggity hadn't really been playing that much Lee Sin. It was more the Ivan, you know, more the carry-style jungler. So it definitely feels like a different style that Vibes will be bringing onto the Summoner's Rift here in the first game of the OCS split. You talked about the Shen. It's been banned away by Sin Academy. Really nice pick there, Preacher, because Outlaws now have to look maybe a little bit more aggressive in the top lane. Jarvan's gone. What else?
Yeah, Jarvan's gone and Gragas is gone as well. Everything else just goes out of the window. I mean, another really strong top laner that we haven't really talked about. Unfortunately, doesn't work too well in the context of the team composition, but would work extremely well into Sin Academy's team composition, would be Fiora. Extremely strong, busting through everybody. If it's not banned away in this rotation, expect it to at least be hovered.
And at least you'd have that late game that Outlaws look like they could build towards. I mean, no Lee Sin, yes. However, you got the Lulu, you got the hyper carry Jinx, something strong up in that top lane. Orianna taken away by Sin Academy. It looks like on the other side of the rift, Syndra will be taken away from Chaz, which leaves Outlaws to the first pick. And if they go for the Nivea here, I mean, Rain has been a fantastic Draven. He's had these unique pocket picks, but is he going to do the same in mid? He might be picking up the Lulu in mid.
So that could be a Lulu mid. I mean, it could also be top lane, so we can't lock that in for 100% certain. But I'd like to go back to a quick point that you talked about, how the Lee Sin's going to fall off late game. Yes, if you're going to be talking about damage, he's going to be falling off late game, but he has a lot of potential in terms of keeping people safe. Yeah, his ultimate will always be that huge thing that engages, but they don't even need that inside their team. If they go for something like an assassin in the mid lane, which they still have an option to do if that Lulu goes into the top side, Lee Sin can still perform excellently well by just jumping onto Rain and kicking anybody who's trying to kill him off of him.
I think the Lee Sin is a very influential pick, and see how that works out in the, at least early part of the game. It is going to be a Lucian mid as well. What is happening in this first game of the OCS? Rumble locked in as well, and there is the final counter pick coming through. Like you said, I mean, it could be the Lulu top. Very doubtful, as Rain has played this interesting style in the past. So it looks like a Lulu mid to finish it off. How do they round out their composition?
But here's the deal. Now that they've picked out the Rumble, you kind of have to think, maybe I should be flexing this Lulu into the top side. She does the best out of any champion who could potentially go into it, but
what is happening?
What?
Okay. I'm going to be one to say it, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the OCS for split number 2. I hope you enjoy your ride, because Outlaws vs Sin Academy is going to be a game you cannot miss. Okay, Jinx. Rain is a Draven main. Like, he is a really, really good Draven. He is taking Draven into the mid lane. That is a Lulu top lane with a Nami Jinx bottom lane.
Do you see this?
Explain.
I am grinning from ear to ear because I love this. Lucian mid has been meta for ages, because practically if you take it into something like, for instance, a Kassadin or something close range, like even a Yasuo, who one of the players in the OCS does like to play a lot, you simply just outright win the mid lane because of the matchup. You have a lot of potential to take turrets as well, but nobody ever saw this coming. What's the hardest counter to Lucian in the bot lane? Draven. Draven just outtrades him at all parts throughout the game. You can't go up to him as a Lucian because he will just outtrade you. Long skirmishes, short skirmishes, he's got to win all of them. And if he gets snowballing, Dravens usually tend to go one way or the other. They don't just simply flatline where they sort of help the team. Not really. It's either they carry the game or they're the downward force for them.
You know, when we were looking at Outlaws lineup originally, we were saying, yeah, there's some nice players in here. You know, they have Young Cat 80 carry, and it's probably the biggest player. But now Scam Diggity up in that top lane is going to be picking up the Lulu. In the mid lane, Rain is playing Draven mid against the Lucian. What is happening? I love OCS. I love this place. I'm glad I'm back here. I'm looking down the ground. I'm going, this is an interesting team composition. How does it work?
And if you are excited, then you cannot even begin to imagine how excited I am. I mean, double AD meta going into the mid to late game, sieging turrets. If there's a Mountain Drake, if they manage to get a Herald early, this could just snowball out of proportion. And speaking of snowball, what better champion than the Draven? I mean, if he gets ahead just a little bit, say goodbye to your carries, because he'll be running them down.
I feel like that's the whole map right now for Outlaws. With the Jinx and the Draven composition, one of these 80 carries get ahead, and it's going to be a vicious early, mid, late game. Like the Jinx getting into the late game, right? Yes, you are versing a Lucian, and you are going up against, you know, what is a subtle team composition from Sin Academy, but Outlaws feel like it's do or die in this first game.
They absolutely do, and when you take a look at the Lulu composition as well, you can either use that on the Draven or the Jinx. You can take a look and assess, first of all, which one is taking the most damage in the middle of the team fight, or if you're the people who are going into the enemy team and your front line doesn't really need to be beefed up anymore with the ultimate, then you can say, okay, I'll put it onto the Jinx because it's late game, and she still needs to, she needs as much attack speed as she possibly can to do as much damage as we can in the very last team fight, which could very well decide the game. Or if it's a mid-game fight where you group up as 5 at about 20-25 minutes, you put it on the Draven, and that guy who really spikes in the mid-game just spikes even further.
And it feels like if you are Sin Academy right now, you sit in that mid lane against Rain. You have a Kha'Zix and you have a Lucian. What better time than the first 10-15 minutes to focus on that lane and make sure the Draven has no adoration, has no priority whatsoever?
Yeah, but here's the other downside of picking Draven on 7.12. He's definitely not as strong as on 7.11, and yes, we are on patch 7.12 for this game in case you missed it back at home, but practically, Doran's shield got nerfed massively. You can only get one pot with it as opposed to 2.
Yeah, back to 450.
That's one of the things that actually really hindered Draven. Draven's really came into meta because his early game was a little bit shaky. If you tend to die once in the lane, you tend to die about 5 times. With the Doran's shield, it just allowed him to stay in lane. And if he didn't want to go aggressive, there was absolutely no need to. Now you only get 1. We might see him back on the Doran's Blade. That might be a huge hindrance for him.
Yeah, Doran's Blade, you know, we have been looking internationally and even on the OPL. It seems like the Doran's Blade is the choice for, yes, I want to go super aggressive in this lane, and I am going to be the aggressor. I am not really going to take trade back and forth. It's just going to be me one-sided. So maybe with the Draven, feels like with the Lucian that he can just sit back, throw an axe, doesn't have to trade.
Exactly, and if you have 2 axes up, you just auto Lucian twice. He only gets 1 application of his Doran Shield, which I assume he's going to build a Doran Shield, and you're just going to come out on top of that trade. So all in all, these ADCs, it really does put a little bit of strain on them in terms of what they can possibly buy at level 1.
And it is nicer in this patch as well. I mean, the Galio, the Zac were still banned out, so these junglers both having a bit of a fair go. I was going to say fair shake of the source bottle, but I thought I'd keep it a little bit less.
We're past 2007.
Yeah, no, that was that was a time in our lives, wasn't it? So the Zac's gone, the Galio's gone as well, so it's not going to be heroic entrance, but no Jarvan either, which is quite nice. So it feels like these team compositions have kind of rationalized, okay, what can we do with what's left? And the champions that were left, like maybe the Maokai, like even the Nunu if they wanted to play it,
Hold on.
were just thrown out.
Hold on a second. Now, I got to completely disagree with, they were thrown out in that sense, but
There's a Lulu top.
There's a Lulu top. There's a Draven mid. You got to take a look at the entire team composition and say, what were these bans for? They were effectively bans to get rid of what are perceived as the strongest champions right now. And then all of the meta ones that were left completely off the table. Who cares? It's as if they're banned as well.
Well, we are going to jump into game 1, ladies and gentlemen. What a pick and ban phase that was. But now that we're in Sin Academy versus Outlaws, game number 1 of OCS split number 2. Thank you so much for joining us here. It is going to be a hoot and a holler, if I dare say so. Draven mid.
And look at what he started, Hysterics. No fear at all. Longsword 3. But
So did Lucian.
It's also in Delusion. That's
Chaz.
You got to question that one. Chaz, you should know that the Lucian matchup simply loses into the Draven matchup. Why would you get the same items if you get identically the same statistics? Draven's only going to come out on top. He's even taken exhaust. Look at that trade potential.
They're both taking exhaust.
It's nuts.
Both 80 carries mid have taken exhaust.
Game number 1 of OCS is bonkers.
Absolutely off the charts. Well, Tekka making a bit of his debut up in the top lane in the OCS. Haven't seen this guy around. I've seen him in the open ladder, seeing him in other small tournaments, so it's great to see him actually prove himself on Summoner's Rift here today. Praelis, of course, had a great split last time, played a lot of Graves as well. Chaz, Squidgy, and Eva, these guys, they're all experienced veterans of the OCS, if you want to call them that. Squidgy on Tristana has been a bit of a hoot and a holler himself. I've said that twice now. And Eva Yuzuki, normally the Lulu main, taken away by a top laner.
Yeah, so he has to fall back onto the next best, which is, of course, Karma this patch. Some argue that Karma is even better than Lulu in the current meta.
They do.
Yeah, but Eva, he just gets the Karma, and that's going to work out extremely well for them in the bot lane. It's one of the best synergies they possibly can get, simply because you get the shove at level 1. Now, here's something that I want to talk about. Obviously, there's going to be trade, so we sort of have to ignore mid lane as beautiful as it is. The 2 junglers, neither of them have actually opted to start Raptors first, which is something that we see a lot in competitive regions internationally. They go for the Raptors because it's very easy to leash, but of course, Lucian and Draven, not the best leashes in the world. So they're going to leave it for the moment. Might be a little confusing for Praelis because he actually started on the top side of his jungle. That's really rare for Kha'Zixes. They start on the bottom side. Now the junglers are going to meet on the same side if they decide to gank before first back.
Yeah, Vibes has actually just gotten his red, left Raptors, left Wolves, gone straight to blue. Might be looking for a potential at an early gank bot. However, we know that the Karma can give the speed up, but a level 2 Ashe, a level 2 Karma, considerably weaker. If the Nami lands that bubble, I mean, the Lee Sin, easy follow-up there and a lot of potential for gank.
Yeah, so level 2, the bubble comes out and then Jinx's traps come out. You've also got the ebb and flow, which does a lot in terms of trading.
Yep.
Jinx is going to be wailing on you. A Lee Sin early game, that's what we're going to be watching for. Now, Lee Sin's down onto the bottom side. Vibes, he's looking for an early game.
There is a ward in that pit, however, in the brush. And Squidgy knows that K-pop is a little bit low, but Vibes instead might just be going for an invade. We'll see Praelis in the back if he follows it through. Praelis at half health, but he's not going to go over the wall. Instead, Praelis just going to pick up his Krugs after picking up his red and blue, leaving those Raptors as well.
And I actually think that that's a really smart ward that came down from Vibes, because what he did is he put it down as low as he possibly could, such that if Praelis was sitting in that brush, he could still not spot out that ward coming out. I don't believe that Praelis saw that ward. Now that he jumped over with the blast cone to do his Krugs, the bot lane of Outlaws should play a lot back, because they should know the Kha'Zix is around the bottom side. He could cover their lane.
But a lot of bottom lane pressure, getting that first gank off in the bottom lane might mean an early Infernal Drake for either of these teams. The priority there is massive, especially when you have that Jinx and Draven, that double AD carry comp which can force these fights or at least get the sieging down. Get that next dragon out of the way. Could be a mountain, could be even more beneficial.
Oh yeah, and if you take a look at the effect that an Infernal has on both of these two teams, of course on Sin Academy they would love it because it means that Rumble does more with Equalizer. Yep. You've got a double AD composition. It means that Kha'Zix takes a little bit longer to fall off, and it's all good for them. But on the other side, Outlaws, they want it for a different purpose. The more AP that Scam Diggity buys as Lulu, the more protection he actually offers for the rest of his team. So while they do all benefit from it, it works in two different ways, and that's what they want to play.
It feels like if you Scam Diggity, you do just go for maybe an Ardent City. You do just go for the full-on support Lulu top.
I mean, that's a little bit difficult to perform on the top side.
Would it be worth it in the mid-game stage?
Yes, if you're out of laning phase, if you're not trying to split push against a Rumble, then yes. And that actually works towards their favor, because Rumble is not known as a champion who wants to split push. He wants to group up as soon as he gets level 11, especially when he gets level 16. He puts down the red carpet and hopefully forces the enemy off of objectives. Now, Lulu wants to do the same thing. Obviously not force people off of objectives, but group up and make sure that she can really give support to the rest of her team. So long as she makes it out of laning phase alive, builds 1 or 2 damage items, even maybe in Athenes, she can go for them.
Frailus is hovering around the mid lane. Rain pushing up a little bit. Kha'Zix, is he going to jump in, go for the Rain, gets the isolation quick, and a quick trade. That will force Rain back for now. But he's still comfortably in lane. He's just going to use a pot. That is going to be the last one with Chaz still sitting on 1.
That's not the worst case scenario for Rain. I mean, of course, that was the best thing that Praelis could have done.
Yep.
A lot of his jungle was down. He didn't want to go to the wolves. He's going to it right now. So what does he do? He opts to push out Rain. And that's going to work out favors for Chaz, despite the fact they did burn any summoners, didn't get the kill. It's simply just a lot of breathing in this matchup, though.
The Ash Karma still pushing up in this bottom side of the map. Outlaws struggling a little bit down bottom, but you can see the farm is actually okay for now. Yeah, didn't really prime the minion there. That's all right.
Cancelled his
first game.
K-pop!
First game jitters, okay?
I'll let him off. I'll let everyone off in week 1.
It's the first week of the OCS. There's strange team composition, and no one's priming minions. It's okay, Preacher.
It's just 1 CS. What's the difference to a Jinx who's still going to hypercap?
About 25 gold, 30 gold. How much does a melee minion give?
21.
21.
Just a bit.
That's, yeah, just, I mean, it's more than a bit. No, less than a bit, sorry.
Less
than a bit. For all those who don't know, Biddle is less than a bit.
There you go.
It's
and we'll see the effect of missing that minion in a Biddle.
Yeah, we definitely will be. We're going to move exactly past that for now. It feels good to be back if you haven't already guessed that we're pretty excited to be here. You look at the mid lane, the Draven actually doing well for CS. I think Rain is challenging Chaz's Lucian just a little bit. Both are level 6.
Oh, Exhaust!
Whirling
Exhaust is actually used in mid.
Chaz is going through. Oh, 1v1. We missed it, but it's all right. First blood traded off by Chaz. Look at that body. What just happened?
Let the bodies hit the floor, Hysteric. But one thing that the spectators at home might not have noticed is the fact that 390 came up on Rain. Now, you might say, that's first blood. He simply got first blood, that's what it is. No, he got 400 on first blood and 390 off his passive. This is going to be a massive first back for him. The fact that he would get the kill before Chaz got the return kill onto him, he's got to be able to snowball with effectively a longsword more.
See if we can get another look at that first blood, but trading off in the mid lane means that the Draven will still hold that 6 CS. But he goes back, he gets that Vampire Scepter, and he gets the pickaxe as well. Cutlass picked up from Lucian with a couple of cloak daggers. Cloak of agility?
Yeah, it's a cloak of agility.
Let's say daggers. Let's say daggers, yeah.
So practically what they're going towards is the very standard first build for both of them. So Lucian's working towards his Blade the Ruined King because it's extremely strong with his passive. You get multiple applications every single fight. But on the other side, Rain's gone for one of the strongest builds that we see in Dravens in competitive right now, and that is Death Stance. You simply get so much regeneration out of pretty much everything you do. 80 AD, it's just worth it no matter how you think about it.
Well, he's still up on CS. I mean, look, that's huge. It's about 15 CS that this Draven is going to sit on. Even up in the mid lane, K-pop has tried to run on through, but Chaz, the wave is just getting frozen against him. This is brutal to watch as Lucian is slowly being strangled out. So 1 kill all with a 1k gold lead because of that adoration, because of that Draven getting first blood.
That's just something that we got to hype over and over. We keep on saying that Draven either scales one way or the other. He simply got the first blood in this instance. A lot of farm on his side as well. I don't think he missed many throughout the wave before he fought Chaz. So the fact that he managed to get so many stacks of adoration only puts him even further ahead. Now this puts a lot of pressure down on the trailers because it means he can't help the other sides of Sin Academy. Other lanes will heal in about 5 minutes time when they've lacked a gank from Kha'Zix. Now over on the other side, Vibes, he might have to use that pressure. Gank the side lane because he knows that Trailers has to camp middle to make sure that Chaz doesn't fall too far behind and get the side lane.
Well, we did say in both of these lanes that both junglers had to prioritize the mid lane. Chaz and Rain have both had the ability to take this game off with a snowball. Both have the ability to change the face of these compositions, and we feel like that at the moment, Rain, with that extra bit of gold and that extra lane pressure, it needs to be responded by Prelude.
Yeah, and we had a lot of questions about Rain coming into the mid lane for the composition of Outlaws. We were going to say maybe he's going to have a few growing pains, not necessarily in his own micro mechanics, but in the way that he interacts with the team. He might not know how a mid lane interacts in team fights, in split pushes, in contests of the sort. But he's on a Draven. This is as comfortable as you can possibly get for this guy. So he's not going to be focusing on the mechanics at all. He'll be focusing more on his role in the composition of the team and how he's meant to output damage and threats.
I mean, maybe he'll be focusing on his mechanics like he always does. Rain's
I mean, you don't need to waste any IQ on it. You're thinking about where you are rather than what you're doing.
You got to think about where the axe is going to land. Like there, you'd be like, hang on, I'm going to throw it now.
Surely if you played as many games as Rain has on Draven, then it should be second nature. The AI should be your AI. You should know exactly where it's going to go before you've even thrown the order. No, it's not random. There's an AI to it, and you can actually predict it if you're willing to put it in.
Someone who's played Draven. Answering that dead right and center. Prayerless down in the bottom lane now looking for an opportunity. Young Cat and K-Pop have been farming pretty nicely in this bottom lane, uncontested or unbothered by any of the junglers. You saw that Vibes try to make his way down earlier, but he's kind of sticking to his own, just clearing out his jungle and hoping to see him make an impact on the map. That Infernal's still standing.
That Infernal's going to be huge for both of these two teams. Already mentioned a countless amount of times how they both want to prioritize it. And it's great that they're not actually going towards it, because as soon as the first person shows in that pit, then all of a sudden the Cold War starts. And one more person comes on the other side, and then another one comes, and then there's a 5v5. And if you're on the side of Outlaws, you definitely don't want to initiate that Cold War because there's...
Draven, Rain is going into Chaz. The color comes through, Whirling Death flashed away. The isolation not really there. In comes Lee Sin with the safeguard. Rain will live another day. The Whirling Death does not pick up the Lucian, but a couple of hits and you can see what the Draven's able to do. Rain starting this game off really nice.
And they got Prayerless down to half health. Props to Vibes for not actually following that Q, because a lot of Lee Sins would say, that guy got chunked a little bit lower than he should have. I should probably just engage on that one. Instead, he gets a whole lot of map pressure as well. And while Prayerless does pick this up, doesn't go to Chaz. Chaz is going to fall even further behind his ears.
Chaz will burn the flash, however, and still has the exhaust available, but you see now the ultimate is down 2. And we are looking at Rain and still has a bit of a level advantage. Death Dance now picked up as well.
Yeah, that Death Dance is simply going to be huge. That's his first power spike, and he's not going to stop scaling from here. You get a whole lot of health back from the Death Dance simply because you heal it up. You heal up all your spells as well as your auto attacks. And the next reasonable item that Ravens go is either a Guardian Angel to make sure that you can simply go a little bit more aggressive and have the knowledge that you won't die in the first rotation of abilities, or they go for something like a Phantom Dance where you reduce damage anyway. So either way, it's simply going to out-trade Chaz.
It feels like trading off with Chaz is the least of his concerns. You know, just farm up as he is with that CS advantage. We speak of CS advantages up in the top lane. Scamdiggy actually doing quite well against the Rumble. Someone who is a natural lane pusher. I think Chanakris Lara will just fly past mid. Exhaust used by Chaz, very ambitious. Rain will just walk it out. Some of it wasted by Chaz.
Yeah, extremely. That was really odd to see how Chaz went up and burned a very crucial summon there, especially if Rain wants to engage and takes 108 seconds. He can do it extremely well. I don't know if he took inside or not. That reduces the cooldown by 15%, but still, it's a huge thing that Chaz no longer has if Rain wants to engage on him. And we saw time and time again, Rain, he's not really scared when it comes to pulling the trigger and engaging like right now.
That's because he's done it so many times before. The culling will come out again.
Wow.
There's the kickback. Traylon in the wrong position, has to flash over the wall after using the Void Assault. And that is goodbye to Kha'Zix, who is getting very low again. Actually gets slimmed down massively. I think the Super Mega Death Rocket hit long range. And Prayerless will be forced back again.
Very close. Fortunate for Pralus that he doesn't fall down, but he does have to burn the flash. That's going to be extremely punishing for him because he means he can't go aggressive. But Chaz
just walks up, cannot deal with Rain right now. You cannot trade with this Draven who has Death's Dance. He'll heal it all back up and force Chaz away.
Chaz has lifesteal as well, but it just seems like the inferior out of the two items. Take a look at this.
Scary.
Rain doesn't care at all. He's more than willing to dive this if he absolutely needs to.
Gladiator.
Lucky he hasn't, but Vibes, this is what I was about to talk about. Now that we know that the flash for Pralus is down, Pralus has to play extremely safe. He needs to make sure that Vibes isn't in the jungle. He needs to make sure that nothing else is going towards him, because when you take a look at the entire map, even though these lanes, especially bottom lane, might favor Sin Academy, you've got mid lane being pushed in. You've got top lane that's incredibly even. That means that Kha'Zix, he's just a sitting duck, waiting effectively for Vibes to join his jungle. Make sure that he doesn't.
I mean, both these junglers haven't had too much of an impact. It feels like Vibes has been focusing on using his rage and all of that Dragon's Rage on the Kha'Zix. You know, a couple of good kicks here and there, but yeah, there's no real finisher for it right now. The biggest priority is this top lane as I mean, the Lulu is 10 CS ahead.
Yeah.
Has that a thing? As we wait for the oh, here comes the ult with the red carpet. If you want to call it Scam. Great flank over the wall. Pralus goes in, jumps forward. He doesn't have the ult, but there he goes invisible. There is going to be another kill going down, but Vibes trade it back and forth. Scam only needs one more auto attack to make it down. Rocket in with the whirling death. With the help of the rest of Outlaws, we'll make it a 2-for-1 trade.
So the only reason why Outlaws came out ahead on that wasn't because of the ultimate, but in the bottom.
Will land on Youngcat for instant exhaust, rooted down, tidal wave to knock out both members of Sin Academy. Youngcat's still cutting his forward, but Squidgy flashes forward. The zap will hit him, slow him down. Squidgy picks up the first kill, and they're going to chase this on forward as Karma looks for the root, slows it down, and a double kill for the 80 carry.
TP.
Teleport's being channeled. Can Squidgy get out? No, he can't. The Lulu comes in and tries to trade it back and forth. It is a bit of a clown fiesta, but the trade comes through and Squidgy still gets a double kill.
So let's do the time warp again and talk about that in reverse. Because practically what happened in that last portion was the fact that Ever tanked it to within an inch of his life, made sure that Squidgy wasn't taking any damage from the turret, managed to get that very clean kill down onto the bottom lane of Outlaws. Unfortunate for them, the teleport comes out from Scam Diggity, and you know exactly what happened. But going back over to the top side, the one reason why they won that straight 2v2 was not because Raven used his ultimate and got that kill at the end, but it was because Scam Diggity had the Athenes, and using his ultimate on Lee Sin just gave him so much help that nobody accounted for.
It was really messy, but after the equalizer, of course, you know, you can just walk straight out of it. Know that Lulu can protect you. Rain adding his offered assistance as well, but because of that bottom lane TP by Scam Diggity and very well played, Draven's going to get blue. That's disgusting.
He's mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you're not going to give it to Elise in, are you? Lulu's all the way up in the top lane, or was, but Infernal Drake does go over to Outlaws, and that is going to be the first dragon of the OCS Split 2 for 2017.
And can I just quickly make a mention?
You can.
This is something that is a pet peeve of mine, but when you give a blue to a Draven, that's actually really obnoxious. His mana costs are low because he's an ADC. It's not something that you generally spam out, but it's also really good at him because what it means is that if you catch your axe, if you make sure that you're in the correct positioning when you're in a team fight, you just spam W, and that's one of the things that actually gains him come later in the game. Just the fact that you've got to really pay attention to when you're using your W to make sure that you're not overlapping with the wasting mana. We're in the bottom side. Pralus comes in.
Will land equalizer layered on carpet if I've ever seen it before. Ever takes a turret shot, will take it up, but a double kill for the Kha'Zix, and now they are looking for the first structure bonus.
Yeah, so they actually caught out Vibes in the middle lane. They knew that he was there. They thought that he was wanting to try and kill Chaz along with Reigns. What do? They simply call for a bottom lane dive. TP comes in from Tekka all the way behind lines because what happens is Pralus goes in and puts down a ward, and they might even get more than one.
They're getting more than one. The Whirling Death will come in, try and clear the wave, which will do so successfully, but 2 turrets for the price of not even one. That mid lane turret staying nice and strong with Chaz. But 4 members of Sin Academy, fantastic rotation, and it just proves the experience of this mob. Scam Diggity's still trying to get that turret, and he will eventually, but it's still at a massive cost.
Yeah, but even if they did get mid, let's just say hypothetically, that's still worth the sim because they just brought down an inner turret at about 17 minutes into the game. They get so much pressure along the bottom side of the map. That is absolutely crucial for them because they've pretty much already given up hope in the mid lane. They say, Chaz, look, just make sure that you don't die in this lane anymore. If you've got to give up CS, you've got to give up CS. we're going to put all of our resources down onto our bottom lane to make sure that we at least have one AD carry who can get ahead, who can output a lot of damage, like for instance this Ashe can do with the build that she's currently going for. But
Sonic Wave. Nami's going to try and come in, does not use the Aqua Prison, instead walks out with the Lee Sin. But there's an opportunity for a pick here on the Outlaws lineup, but not really making good use of it just yet. Sin Academy will continue to defend this mid lane, but it has taken a lot of chip damage. It is at half health, and Outlaws desperately want to take this down and open up the rest of the map.
Yeah, but here's the downside of having the composition of both Draven and Jinx. You've got very little siege capacity with both of them. Sure, you've got the long range of the Jinx rockets, but that's more or less it. You can put down your Chonkers and be a pseudo Caitlyn, but they only last a very short period of time, and then they're gone forever. You can't really... Well, they're gone for the next 20 seconds. No. You can't really use that for a siege. It's about one a wave, and generally you get extremely frustrated with it, especially if you're Jinx, because it means you don't have your disengage tool anymore. So all in all, it's going to be extremely difficult. A straight 5v5, you've got a lot of wave clear on Chaz. He's still got the turret. If he absolutely needs to use it, then just use his flame splitter to make sure that they can clear out the wave, and it's not what they want to play with.
Rain still being aggressive in this lane. I mean, he still has that ability, but he's got the Zeal, hasn't got his second item. Blade of the Rune King was finished a while ago for Chaz. Looks like the phase will be leading into that Black Cleaver second. But one axe does do a lot of damage, not really enough to be that. Oh my god, Draven just half hit me. We're getting there though, we are getting there.
Slowly.
Mid-game Draven coming through.
Slowly.
He does 535 crit. That's not bad.
But that's onto a minion. Minions barely have any armor. You've got to factor that in.
Impressive. It's big numbers.
It's a huge number, but Chaz has a ninja target. Got nerfed to the point where it only does 10% of your auto attack
Back
reduction.
to old school.
Yeah, as opposed to 12%, but it's still extremely strong, especially into the double AD composition. You got a reset as well. Yeah, it just all in all favors him extremely well. Rain did exactly the same thing. Not too sure it was much of a respect, as it is simply the best option at the time.
We do take a check-in of the situation, which is 20 minutes in, and no Rift Herald picked up this game. We know that in patches 7.10, 11, international and domestic, it has been a big priority. But Sin Academy, we speak of this top side, and they will rotate 3 members up. Looks like Karma's up here as well. They're going to do a 1-3-1 and start initiating that nice and early. Now that they've got that tier 2 and down the bottom lane, happy to leave Tekka in the longest lane, especially when you've got an inhibitor turret to look forward to.
Yeah, and I want to go back to your point about how the Rift Herald wasn't taken. It's extremely smart from Sin Academy that they put a ward down in the pit. They actually put down a control ward to make sure that Outlaws couldn't go for it. Sin Academy, they don't need it too much. They would like it, of course, as a buff, but they don't need to really worry over it. No grey hairs for them over a Herald, but on the side of Outlaws, that's one of their win conditions. They definitely need it with this team because, like I said, they don't have a lot of siege potential. They don't have anything like, for instance, the Equalizer that can really force people off of turrets that they can break. And when you don't have siege potential, mid lane outer turret just stays up forever. You just never get to take that turret. And when you don't take that turret down, the whole map is extremely gated and limited in terms of the way that you can move around it, in terms of the way that you can really pressure the enemy team. That's something that Outlaws wanted. And now that we're past the 20-minute mark and they don't have a second chance to get that Rift Herald, that might be something that they really struggle against, because they got the mid lane ahead, but it doesn't really matter when it comes to the top.
I mean, essentially it is a free turret. That's why people take the Rift Herald. You know, you get a bit more pressure on the map, and it does give that free objective of, you know, close to about 500-600 gold or more.
And the first boss is just as satisfying as well.
Oh man, the first charge is just, it feels pretty good. But you can see on your screens there, the next Infernal Drake will be coming up, and if Outlaws can secure this, will be a double Infernal. Yes, maybe looks better on the Sin Academy composition, but at least with Outlaws, I mean, the hyper carry possibilities, having that Infernal, having that extra, well, 12% if they can get this, would be massive for the team.
It's 16% overall, because it goes 8, 16, 24. But anyway, yeah, going towards a composition with the Lulu. Lulu can use extremely well, but defensive purposes, the gold.
They're going to check the crowd, lay it down, a beautiful equalizer. Tidal Wave will hit everyone there as the Wild Growth goes onto the vibe. Hit wall back off, and now Draven is going nuts. It does get secured. That Sin Academy pick up the Infernal, but Tekka gets exhausted. He lives for now. Rain trying to get into the fight, but he's getting slowed down. Outlaws do lose the dragon. They're all low, so they will not chase this fight.
And now it's really unfortunate to watch, because Outlaws were the crew that started this whole fight, and you gotta really question why they did it. There was no real need to. They're a little bit down on gold. Now it's a little bit more even, but still being down on gold means that you don't want to be able to play these. Sin Academy just went back. They just walked it up to the other head of this fight.
Aqua Prison there, Rain trying to go nuts, had to flash away. Way too ambitious. The protection on the Sin Academy comp means that they will get this first turret in the mid lane and continue a gold gap at 2,000 gold.
So you don't even need to be able to siege at this point, because really the condition for getting that outer turret was Rumble using his ultimate, forcing people off and getting the turret. But you can also just kill the Draven, and when nobody's defending it, you quickly take it down with a double ADC composition. It's very unfortunate to see Rain there, and I almost got a question why he was there trying to go so aggressive. Simply stand back. Worst case scenario, use your ultimate to clear the way. Make sure that the enemy can't siege it. It was a 4v2. The only other person that defended Wicked was K-pop. You definitely just cannot do that. You probably can't defend it, let alone go aggressive and trying to kill someone.
And it feels like, you know, across the board, individually, Scam Diggity looks better in his lane. You can see that Rain has that minute difference as well. The bottom lane down by about 1,000 gold, where Squidgy has just had a fantastic laning phase with Eva, aka Yuzuki. Let's just call him Eva now. Sin Academy have that 2,000 gold advantage. However, they've got 3 structures over Outlaws right now. They now have an Infernal as well, and it feels like they have a lot more map control, and they're rotating better as a 5-man cohesive unit.
All right, so let's pull in the reins a little bit on that one. So yes, everything that you mentioned is correct. Sin Academy are up in gold, they're moving around the map, they're getting a whole lot of objectives, and from that last dragon fight, you could even say, is this potentially the capitulation of the Outlaws? Maybe, because a lot of that gold has gone over to Squidgy, and yeah, he's doing an excellent performance, but his build path isn't Blade the Ruined King. He's actually opted to go for the Essence Reaver into crit build, which means he's got more cooldown reduction, a little bit less damage, especially fighting the enemy team. He's going to be an arrow bot. So Ashe is not known as one of those champions that really outputs a lot of damage and tops the damage charts at the end of a game. She's known more for his utility. Her ultimate, you definitely cannot replace it in terms of an ADC's ultimate to engage for the rest of her team, and that's where the gold goes, reducing the cooldown, and they just
Speak of that utility there from out the way, he got one skill shot, but not another. As Squidgy will pick up the kill, and teleport is still finished by Tekka. Looks like they will push on through, but taking away Rain, that is the second, maybe third time he's been caught out.
I'm sorry guys, I promise, this isn't scripted. I wasn't just talking about Squidgy and all of a sudden he finds his ultimate and he gets something.
It just happened.
It's just the strength of his build.
Yeah, well, Outlaws here not too harsh on defending this tier 2 in the mid lane, but Sin Academy will continue on. Kami uses the shield 5, goes in, but will not finish off with the kick. Chad's still pushed up very, very deep, but Outlaws continuing to defend. Jinx going through will take the culling as the rest of the bullets will miss. Sin Academy back off after getting some chip damage mid. They still hold that lead, and they still hold a 3k gold advantage.
And it's almost kind of strange to see that Chaz has relegated his ultimate for disengage duty when you already have something like the Karma on your team and also the Ashe. You can run backwards, fire your volley, and the enemy is destroyed, but try to siege.
Yeah, no, after coming through with the red carpet, aka Equalizer, turret will still go down, and Outlaws get some kind of retribution on the map.
Oh no, everybody's back here on the side of Sin, and look, they can't go to that, sure.
Don't say can't, Jimmy. I believe Vibes will be getting the Scuttle Crab. No one knows this is going on. Will they start up this Baron or simply ward it and back away?
They got vision on it.
Looks like it will be the latter for now. You know, everyone's backing away as well. Outlaws will not go for this rush objective. I mean, they could have done it. We could have seen the first Baron power play, the first sneaky of the split.
Sneaky, but unfortunately it doesn't happen. And I think that's really fortunate for Sin Academy because, quite frankly, they were not in a position to fight.
We're crying on the inside.
Yeah, it's almost as if Outlaws is a little bit hesitant to take these fights at the current moment. But they really should. Now, normally you would take a look at the team composition and simply say, why? Sin Academy are up. They've got a Rumble. But his ultimate was down. It's still down right now. Ashe ultimate still had a little bit of cooldown. It's finally up at the current moment, but we're talking about the time when they could have potentially done the Baron. A whole lot of key abilities were down for Sin Academy. They also went back to base, which means it had a good 20 seconds between them and physically getting towards Baron. So all of those things could have added up to an Outlaws Baron. They just hesitated on the play. And when you waste 2 seconds, saying, can we do Baron? Maybe we can do Baron. That's usually when you say that you can't, because that's a lot of time wasted.
I mean, I think it's because of the start of the split as well, Preacher. You know, Outlaws don't want to make this risky play, especially when they've had a reasonably nice early game. I mean, Sin Academy have found the picks in the last 10 minutes. They have found the plays like this as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow will sail on by. Young Cat, oh, he's going to BM as well. Oh, what is that? Is that a Jinx Chroma?
Yeah, it looks like a Chroma.
It looks like the head of from like Alien vs Predator.
Oh, that's
you know
disgusting.
What I mean? No, well, like, no, it looks like the, you know what I mean? The towels, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
okay, well, okay, Vibes.
He knows what you mean.
Yeah, no, he knows exactly what I mean. He interrupts me while I'm speaking. Vibes will have to burn the flash, but culling as well as the tidal wave will come out. K-pop not going to have that one available. I think Sin Academy trying to force a fight here, especially when Chaz has his 2-item power spike, especially when Squidgy has already got 3 kills, and they're still controlling this map. They've got all the outer turrets down. They're looking for the inners, they're looking for that pick, especially when they found Rain twice. They could do it again.
But this is really odd. They're actually all moving towards bottom side as a 5-man unit. Their strength lies in being a cohesive 5-man unit, but they're giving away crucial Baron control, which is where Outlaws is going right now. You got a question. This is the Cloud Drake. You really want to trade a Cloud Drake for a Baron? I really doubt it. Rumble has ultimate. He has to move up.
They have started it. Outlaws going to be going for that trade exactly. The rest of Sin Academy are moving up. As Baron, is it going down quick enough? It's at 3,000 health. Rain trying to defend it with his life. It will go down. Now can Outlaws get out of the pit? A flash, a whirling death. Sonic Wave will connect, but Vibes just wants to get the heck out of there and will flash. Young Cat slowed down, gets hit, has to flash. So many summoners.
Can they disengage?
But a great Aqua Prison, and they almost take down one Sin Academy member. Outlaws, they do get the Baron, and they get away.
You're absolutely kidding me. And that was the worst call from Sin Academy they could have made at that possible time in the game. Because they knew the Dragon was coming up, but they also knew that it was a Cloud. And when you have something like a Rumble, something like a Lucian with an ultimate that works extremely well against a team who's standing still and trying to do an objective, why would you not try to 5v5 fight them? You could have gone to the Baron, and worst case scenario, simply force Outlaws off of it. Try to get a pick, try to get some turrets off of that one, but instead, they went for the Dragon, they tried to get it, they didn't even get it at the end of the day. They go up there, they burn a whole lot of ultimates, and they don't get anything.
And now Sin Academy's scared to fight this Baroned up Outlaws lineup. All 5 of them surviving that fight, I think, was a really crucial part as well. They will pick up that Cloud Drake, as well as the Infernal already on the roster. And Outlaws, the lineup that has the Hyper Carry, that has the Draven, a Lulu for protection. I mean, yes, it could be a massive 5v5 team fight, but right now, Outlaws clawing their way back from the mistakes they've made in the mid-game.
Yeah, Outlaws, they're really starting to get on the board right now, and a whole lot of the flaws in their champion select are being patched up with this Baron buff. They naturally want to be able to get a 1-4 going on. Rain cannot be on a split push because obviously ADCs in 2017 can't be solo, but he's caught.
And he's in by himself. K-Pop has to burn it all. The redemption to come through as well. 1 shot, 2 shot.
Wow.
Rain is in his power drop right now. 1 member already goes down. And Outlaws, they're switching on. Young Cat is getting excited. Comes through, gets boosted up. The culling will be there. A double kill for the Jinx. And Outlaws, when you mess with the Draven, you get the horns.
And that was so unfortunate to watch. You could see it happening in slow motion. I've got the ultimate. We're going on Draven, but it just didn't work out for Sin Academy.
Oh no, Tekka's come in. He uses the Zhonya's, tries to trade off, but you cannot do a thing against this Baroned up lineup. 4 members down, and Outlaws with the flick of their wrist, maybe looking for the end here.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20 seconds onto a lot of key members. Squidgy's coming up in 10. This could well be the game.
Well, 1 Nexus turret goes down. They're looking for the second one. The flash to come in. They've cleaned 1 member up. It is going to be a double kill.
Young Cat's on full HP.
3 members alive. The Nexus is going down. There's no one to stop it. And Sin Academy, what looked like a promising turnaround, gets crushed by Outlaws.
Yeah, and Outlaws managed to claw it back. They got the first blood, dropped the game in the mid-game, and then finally came back after what was almost the smartest Baron play that they've ever made.
Mendrix, it felt like that game was just out of control. I mean, the pick and ban phase. Let's start right there, because the drafting phase for Outlaws was a bit topsy-turvy, I dare say.
What I love about both these teams is they both did flexes, and then for some reason they both end up with double AD composition.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit like, is this mind games within mind games? What are you guys trying to do? And
when I looked at it on paper, I really liked Sin Academy's draft.
Yep.
Sin Academy's draft really had everything you need. You had that sort of 1 poke engage, or really strong engage.
Yep.
You had the follow-up with the red carpet. Everything sort of worked out for them. If if someone was off target, someone decides to sort of be cheeky and sneak around the edges, you've got the Kazakhs to pick them up.
Yeah.
Everything worked out for them, and you really see it play that role when it gets towards that mid-game moment, where they do that teleport, that 4-man gank in the bot lane. Really lined up everything for them, because it was really Outlaws' game, or basically Outlaws were
Definitely
just in control up until that moment in time. And as soon as they get the Baron, that was incredible.
But the
well
one
done
play,
by Outlaws to get
it
that.
was the one play at the end of the day. Sin Academy choosing the Cloud Drake over potentially making sure Baron's warded up. And by the time they rotated towards that Baron, it was way too late, guys.
And it's that very classic saying where you say, you know, if you chase two rabbits, you're not going to get either of them. They choose to go on the Cloud Drake when the Baron is up. Now, you've got an Ashe ultimate, you've got a Lucian ultimate, and you've got a Rumble ultimate as well. Why don't you go towards the Baron? Even if your enemy are there, you can fight them 5v5, especially if they're in the pit. You can catch them off guards and go for it, but instead, they want to go for a Cloud Drake, which is all right for their composition because they can run up to the enemy, but it's not the best one. You know, obviously, the Mountain and the Infernal would have helped them a lot more, and certainly the Baron outweighs the Dragon.
I definitely think so.
Completely agree with that there. And what I love about what Outlaws did in that, where they do go for that sneaky Baron, it didn't even feel that sneaky. It was just kind of like, oh, you guys going to go that way? I guess we'll just go this way.
Yeah, it was
they
all
knew the
watered
arrow
out.
was down as well. There was a bit of that moment in time when Jinx was throwing out a little bit of a BM after the arrow just goes sailing on by. They go, hey, they can't engage right now. That's their major initiation tool, and they're walking towards the Air Drake. No worries. We're going to pick up that nice, juicy Baron, and then from that point on, you could just tell the Sin Academy will just they were just off their game at that point. They were a bit tilted, I guess you could say.
Oh.
And what ended up happening from that was they tried to make the next plays happen. They tried to be able to get what they needed to get done. The engagers just didn't hit the mark. All of a sudden, there was this massive Draven who you just could not kill. And then for Outlaws just to turn the switch and say, we can win this game right now after that engage was great decision making. These guys can do quite a fair bit coming into this.
And it's not even just, I'm going to stick to my gut instinct, and once I've started this Baron, I'm going to finish it. It's more of that situation where they had a failsafe. They legitimately had a condition in which they would leave, and that is seeing the Rumble and seeing where he was in relation to them. Rumble walking through the mid lane in order to go to the Baron, they knew that they had ample time. They could take it down before the red carpet arrived to their doorstep, and they just managed to take it down because they knew that they had all of the space available.
Yeah, I feel like Outlaws at the very last fight as well, you know, Eva went in, tried to force onto Draven, but Rain just said, full steam ahead, I'm going in. Press W, and with blue buff as well, I'm pretty sure at the end, or at least, you know, give him double buffs. Walked in, and with the Baron buff, that was pretty much it. Outlaws taking their experience, or at least, you know, Scam Diggity up in the top lane. Someone we weren't expecting, guys. Like, we thought, you know, it was going to be someone else in the top, someone else in the mid, but Rain with all of his experience in 80 carry position, playing an 80 carry mid, and Scam Diggity up in the top lane, flexing his Lulu, being fully supportive for his team, which means Outlaws will take game number 1 of the OCS split for 2017, split number 2, I should say. However, our next game is really important, and both you gentlemen will be with me because this is big. The next game is going to be between Atletico Esports and Abyss Academy, our potential top 2 teams going head-to-head in week number 1. So why would you go anywhere? I don't even know the answer to that. We'll be back with you in 5 minutes for the OCS. Do not go a single place.